So I'm going to start this video by apologising for my voice. As you can probably tell, it's a bit croaky. I've got a bit of a cold at the moment, so hence why. And yesterday I couldn't even do a video. I could barely speak at all. So I managed to sort of decent night's sleep and been able enough to talk a little bit better today. So yeah, I wanted to get a video out, of course, because West Ham have now completed the signing of Max Kilman, our third signing of the summer. I'm really pleased. I'll tell you why, because I know this is getting quite a lot of criticism actually from fans, and I do understand it. In fact, I'm going to be talking on Monday. We're going to do a video with a Wolves fan. From Wolves Fan TV, Dave, and he's going to be talking to us about Max Kilman, also Lopetegui. But there's a feeling, I think, amongst West Ham fans certainly that we've probably overspent on Kilman. He's not worth the money, etc. But look, I don't want to go into this with a sort of negative view. Do you know what I mean? It's like, for me, what I really like about this is that this was the target that Lopetegui wanted. Lopetegui really wanted Kilman over the line because he wanted him as his captain. We understand that to be the case. I don't think that's 100% certain. But I think it's he's a strong contender now. I know West Ham obviously are looking at other options. Obviously, we've got Bowen as a contender, Alvarez as the next captain as well. But I think Kilman's going to be certainly looked at as a possible replacement for Kurt Zouma as our captain for next season. But I just like the fact that the club have backed Lopetegui. I really think that means a lot. And it must mean a lot to the manager as well, head coach. It must mean a lot to him. Do you know what I mean? He's just coming to the job and you've got the player that you said that this is the one I want, and West Ham got it done. So I'm really pleased. And also there is a bit of a fairy tale to this as well with Maidenhead United, of course. They are managed by Alan Devonshire, former West Ham player, one of my dad's heroes. And obviously, I've actually met Alan. I've seen him once before. And yeah, lovely bloke. And also, what it's done for that football club. So basically, I think they're set to receive about £8 million, I believe, from this transfer. As they've got a signing on fee. I'm really pleased for that. I think that's great because it totally transforms that club, and it just that romance to it. Do you know what I mean? Like, love the idea of a club that's non-league is now suddenly going to have this windfall of money that can really push them on. So I'm really, really pleased. And so West Ham, third summer signing over the line, and that's good. And now, of course, it's on to the next targets, who West Ham are going for. So we're going to continue keep giving these updates throughout because it's always changing. It's always constantly moving. As I said, we had real confidence in Max Kilman. We felt that was the most likely to be the next signing. It was always like the player wanted to move, we wanted to move. I think it was always just a case of that we just need to get the number right with Wolves, which we understand to be around about £40 million flat actually for the player. So on to next targets, who West Ham are going for. Now, the striker situation is a bit of a strange one at this stage because we've been linked to a lot of players, but as you will probably know, or probably have noticed, that but there's no one really concrete at the moment. It's not like West Ham are definitive. Like with Max Kilman, for instance, we knew that was the centre-back we wanted. That's the man we want, and we've kind of made it's been very clear throughout. Whereas with the striker, we're not so sure. I think that's going to change actually over the coming days. I think it's going to become a lot clearer as to who West Ham are going to want. Ex-WHU employee is going to provide a bit more of an update on the striker situation, but we have been heavily linked, of course, to a few players now. Jonathan David, En-Nesyri. En-Nesyri, for me, I don't know now. I'm seeing he's been linked elsewhere. I think Saudi clubs are quite keen. But it will be interesting to see now who West Ham really want for this position. I think that's going to start becoming very clear. So I think this is one that will start exciting fans a little bit because we do need a new striker, and it's something we've got to get right. It's something we've failed upon now time and time again, haven't we? Year after year, we keep messing it up when it comes. Well, we'll say year after year, every other year, because we seem to go we seem to just keep relying on Antonio. It can't continue. So I think the striker situation will start becoming clearer for fans now of who we actually want to bring in. So at this stage, I don't want to sort of pin too many names on it. As I say, we know the players we've been linked with to date, but we would give a proper update once we get from X exactly who we really are looking at. Then we can give an update on that. But I'll tell you what, there is a bit of interest. Well, we talked about it before, Carl Walker-Peters. I think that one is a real firm interest, and possibly one West Ham are going to start really focusing on as well, getting over the line. There's a bit of a complication with Walker-Peters, and that complication is that Southampton really want Flynn Downs. Now, I don't know if you noticed, but when West Ham did the returning to Rush Green and West Ham players are back to work, etc., Flynn Downs featured heavily in a lot of that, a lot of the videos. He's featured quite heavily in a lot of the media stuff for West Ham recently, which I do find telling a little bit, because if a player's going and they know he's definitely going to go and they're just negotiating his exit, you'd be surprised if they'd suddenly have a lot of cameras in his face. Do you know what I mean? Officially from the club. So it's interesting to see. But as far as we understand it at the moment, Flynn Downs is actually quite keen on the move to Southampton. I don't get me wrong, I think he's torn because, of course, he's a West Ham fan. He would love to make it at this football club. But the reality is he can't be guaranteed a starting position in the West Ham's 11 under Lopetegui. He just can't. He's not that calibre of player, unfortunately. Whereas I feel like with Southampton, they can offer him not only a Premier League wage, they can offer him a place in the Premier League side, etc., but also say, look, and also you're going to be the main man here. You're going to be in our midfield every game. I can see why it appeals to him. And of course, he was there last season, so he knows the club, he knows the fans. So I wouldn't be surprised if that move happens. But West Ham, of course, are a little bit torn here because I think they want to give Flynn Downs a chance. I think they want to see him play, etc. But also we want Kyle Walker-Peters. So there is a bit of complications there in terms of getting Walker-Peters over the line. I think West Ham will still go for that, though. And I do have a little bit of confidence that we'll get it done. But that remains to be seen. But there's certainly, I feel now that now the Kilman deal's over the line, West Ham, the next targets are going to become a lot clearer of who we're going to go for. We understand that West Ham are after a winger. Philogene, who was at Hull City, who I was very keen on, that appears to be shifting away now. I think West Ham's interest is starting to wane a little bit. Also goes for Jacob Greaves, who, of course, is the defender we were looking at for Hull City. So whether West Ham sort of resurrects our interest, but when you're looking at reports, and these are from sort of top journalists, Fabrizio Romano being the one there talking about Philogene of Hull. He isn't really mentioning West Ham anymore. He's talking about other clubs. There's probably 3 English clubs keen, and he didn't mention West Ham. I think Everton are interested. So it's a bit disappointing, actually, because I think West Ham has sort of got an opportunity for a very good player. But, of course, I want to be in that mindset of trusting our side of things, trusting Steidson, trusting Lopetegui, trusting the recruitment system, and I want them to do their work. If they feel that the player's not quite right and they're not going to go for it, then okay. And also bearing in mind, West Ham have got to be careful regarding finances. I haven't really talked about finances much on here, but I will say that there's a little bit of mixed messaging, I think, in regards to our budget. You know, fans are expecting, which I like myself, you sort of think, well, we should have a bit of money behind us. There's no reason why we haven't got money to spend. I don't think the club are going to be announcing loudly, we've got 200 million to spend and we've got 150 million to spend. I don't think that's wise. We had this last summer, if you remember, with the Declan Rice situation. When we sold Rice, it almost felt like clubs just started inflating their prices every time we went for a player. Because well, you've got 100 million, mate, in the bank. You can go and spend it. So I think the West Ham actually are being quite cagey in regards to budget. But when you go back to the press conference with Lopetegui and Steidson sort of made it very clear we don't need, worry about money. We've got money to spend and we don't need to sell. So it's interesting. I think there's more there to be spent, but then it's kind of being reported a little bit. But I'm not really concerned in that regard. But that being said, there still is a budget. And if West Ham are looking to, I'm just throwing this out there. If West Ham are saying looking to spend 50 million on a striker, if we're saying, well, we want to get a top striker through his door and we're going to spend big money, we're bring a striker in, they're unlikely to go and spend 30, 40 million pounds on a winger. It's just unlikely. Do you know what I mean? They're going to have to start being a bit careful how we spend the money and distribute it. So, that's where we are at the moment. Well, as I say, I think there's going to be some movement on the Walker-Peters deal. Whether that's going to involve Flynn Downs, I don't know. I personally would much rather see Downs stay, give it an opportunity this summer and see how we get on. But of course, it's down to the player, isn't it? And the manager. And if he's going to feature. If he's not going to feature, player wants to go, get it done. But Walker-Peters, I think something could happen there. But obviously, this, as I say, it's a little bit complicated at this stage. What we'll do is we'll provide more of an update. It possibly will be tomorrow, to be honest. I've spoken to X this morning. I think there's a transfer update coming soon. Of course, we've got the podcast out on Monday as well. As I say, I'll be sitting down with Wolves Fan TV to talk about Kilman and Lopetegui, which will be quite interesting. So I'd like to know their take, because some of the Wolves fans have not been overly complimentary to their former captain. Let's put it that way. So it'd be interesting to get a good take on that. And as I say, we'll get a transfer update more on the striker situation. But I do think over the next few days, we'll get these targets who we're going to be going for next, so we become a lot clearer.